So here we are in Italia again. Um, the first scenario is about the rise of the mainly the Roman Republic inside Italy. The second scenario is more about the fall. We're into the imperial era. I think it starts around 330 AD, the way they put it. But and we see divisions between African Romans over here and the Western Empire proper over here. Now, African Romans were kind of weird because I think that they swung back and forth between the Eastern and Western Empire in terms of positioning. So they're kind of a battleground section. I'm assuming this is meant to either represent, and I'm not familiar with Bonifatius, who's the leader to begin with. I'm certainly familiar with Stilicho. I'm not sure if this is at this point representing a revolt or if it's representing that duality in the Roman Empire. In the starting situation, we've got sort of a Sardinian Corsican revolt going on, and we got a pile of Visigoths coming down into Italy itself. We've got the Vandals in position here. Now, these are Berbers. They're, I think, going to get stronger later, but right now we've got a major Vandal attack into North Africa. But otherwise, everything's Roman. Now, the Eastern Romans are legionary armies, good troops, what we're used to the Romans having. Whoa, no, those were federates. Sorry, lousy troops. Yeah, they don't seem to have any legions at all. And in fact, they don't have legions over here. Which makes sense because the African troops were actually well known for being of lesser quality, along with the Eastern troops, than were the ones positioned in the Western provinces. That's sort of misspeaking. I know earlier in the empire, African troops were quite good. But anyway, we also see the Western has very, very few legionary forces. They have these federates, and those become a country at some point, and the aligned ones with any Roman faction can actually switch over to that country. Very much like the Romans in the last turn in the first scenario were able to do. The positioning set up though in this way that it looks like the East and the Western, well, the African and the Western Romans have some conflicting goals. So, for example, the Africans do want all of Sicily, and I'm sure that the Western Romans want it as well. I haven't really, yeah, they want it as well. Both sides want to get Corsica, Sardinia under control. But both also have a really, really major problem on their hands in terms of these big invasions from the barbarians. So chances are they will mostly work together rather than pursuing a civil war at this point. We'll see how the game progresses. I'm kind of a little iffy. This is late enough where that East-West divide might actually fall into place very nicely. But I'm a little iffy about representing if this is indeed a civil war type situation. And the federates certainly seem to be. Representing something like that as a different people in this Britannia-inspired system, that really disturbs me in some serious ways, because those things tended to be transient rather than long-term divisions. Now, the East-West division was long-term, I guess. But they didn't, yeah. I mean, I don't mind that much, especially given that there were wars between them during the periods. But I'm not sure what the Federati are supposed to represent. Client states, etc., revolting, whatever. Those didn't tend to be permanent situations. So I just don't feel comfortable with what that's showing. Anyway, we'll see how this plays out. New score sheet, new order of play. Well, we got the Patrimonium starting there. It should be interesting to some degree, I guess. So the first turn, first action starts out with the Visigoths having a campaign, and they spent their gold and moved in all the way down to Ravenna. Stilicho gathered all the Romans there. There was a destruction in Verona. That's where the victory points. A lot of Romans died, mainly legions, because it's better to hit them. And a pile of Visigoths died. The Visigoths retreated, but now they get to continue their campaign. Their goal is really Rome. They get the most points off of killing Rome, so that's what they're trying to do, but and they may be able to evade Stilicho heading down. We'll see. The Visigoths were foolish, in my opinion. Instead of raiding Rome, they went at a slightly under even odds attack after, they had to make the declaration before all the reinforcements were gathered, and they were one unit short, and they ended up losing Alaric and all their forces, and the Romans kept this. Of course, if they had won Rome, the victory would have been much, much richer. They would have gotten 2 more cities, probably. They could guarantee themselves 2 more with a 1, 2, 3 move. I don't think they could get another one. They only had 1 gold left. Anyway, what we're seeing is a very, very weak start for the Visigoths, I think. I'll score the points and see what happens. So we finished up the first turn. Let me try to think where we stopped. I don't remember if I caught the Italian re-expansion. They managed to wipe out all of the Visigoths, which is a point bonus for them. That was followed up by, the Sardinians stayed where they are. The Berbers stayed where they are. But now we see the Vandal invasion, which swept through everything into Numidia, but then got responded to by Bonifacius moving back. And he's done a lot of damage to the Vandals. And so we'll see what happens. They get reinforcements there. And to turn points, blue, which is the Africans, ended up at a big 5.5. I mean, all from killing things. The yellows, which were the Visigoths, pulled 10 in. The reds, which are the Romans primarily, got 15 in from wiping out the Visigoths. And greens, Vandals, pulled 3.5 from killing things. Now, this is kind of annoying. Unlike most of the games in this series, and even the previous scenario in this series, a lot of people are getting points for killing something at any time, which means you have to keep track of everything that dies, basically, and then score it afterwards. It's not a huge deal. It's just a different mechanism that's a little bit more annoying in play. Alright. So the Visigoths didn't exist, so they didn't get the first action, but the Romans did, and they moved forward, rebuilding cities throughout northern Italy primarily, but also capturing all of Sicily. Now, I'm not sure if Sicily was worth it, whether trying to hit Africa would have been more valuable. but the advantage of Sicily was there weren't a lot of troops that could campaign against them. This stuff could have intercepted a campaign and caused problems. Looks like Sicily is going to be easier to hold throughout the game, so that's also an issue. Victory point wise, they scored a lot of points. They get a special set of points for this turn because of that campaign, and they scored some 37 points off of it, which seems pretty damn mighty to me. Again, I don't know the flow of the game, so like with the previous scenario for Italia, as well as even with 1861, I'm not entirely sure what I should be doing, who I should be worried about at this point. The Sardinians followed up and sacked Africa, and they scored 6.5 points. It's sort of a weird turn where a lot of people are scoring points at the end of it. And I get to play the Berbers, and they're going to overrun the Vandals. It takes double the strength to do so. They got a pile of new troops. They get this constant flow. And they're going to take a quick shot at Africa, see if they can get it. First thing I noticed, I scored at 37 points on the wrong line. I scored it up on the African Romans. They're pretty much destroyed right now. The Vandals swept in and took, got about 16 victory points, I guess, for taking over Africa and rebuilding the city. All the African Romans have left is just this boat. And they fell. Oh wait, no, they got a dude here. Hold on. Hold on. I don't know what the hell they're going to do with that. So yeah, I got to figure out what I'm doing with that. It's worth a half point to them. And I don't really know what else they're going to do. So, Attila's Huns swept down. Now, they're a one-turn campaign. They spent all their points for it. They swept down through the north, pillaging some cities, made it to Rome, sacked Rome, went into the southern Italian area because they didn't have enough to make it back to Noricum. They get points for doing that. And sacked even though they did a raid there, so the Romans are still there. They collected, nice noise, they collected, I don't know, it wasn't a hell of a lot, it wasn't bad, 24.5 points. They're a one-turn country. They just come in and they wipe out. Why are they one turn? Well, at the end of their turn, they turn into federates, but then immediately are the green ones, the revolting ones. So they just count as more of this assault on Rome. All right, we'll see how that turns out, but I'll go bag the Huns and replace them. And that's the end of the second turn. The Federati tried to consolidate their position a little bit and mostly build up the cities again, because they got 2 victory points per city. Ravenna is very important to them. They get a -1 to the die roll in combat if they don't have Ravenna, or if Ottokar has been removed from the map. They're going. He's not yet on, so he hasn't been removed yet. So that's a real weakness. We haven't seen anything like that. I would have almost expected it from the Etruscans. They pulled 12.5 points. For their actions in the turn. I'll add things up, but I'm not gonna give you the scores yet. I'll just load this sucker.